Perseus and Medusa Part 5, the finale. Let's sculpt to the end. I reposition Perseus to the top right corner on a clay disc to enhance the depth and flying illusion. Liquid clay binds Perseus into place. This clay sausage will be used for skinning. Now, using pliers, I bend 2 paper clips into humanoid skeleton forms. One for the left half, and the other for the right half of the body. Then I pose them as desired. 5 sets of paperclip skeletons later gets me 5 distinct human adventurers, each fallen foul of Medusa's petrification power. A good example of rapid paperclip skeleton process can be seen over on my Anthropogenesis sculpture video series, which is another Greek mythology piece. I apply my simple clay skinning method to create sketch figures, which can be positioned. Each human adventurer has their own story for being here. Each has been turned to stone in a dynamic dramatic posture with horror and pain etched on their faces. The first warrior was skulking through the Greek bath, spear in hand, ready to be thrown at the Medusa, but alas! He was turned to stone and racked with pain, and fell to one knee as he screamed to the heavens. The second figure, who will wield a sword, reached the top temple step before being stunned into a statue prison and collapsing face down onto a slab of masonry. There is no need to sculpt a face or body front. Our third treasure hunter is first sketch modeled with the story in my mind that a sudden neck wound, perhaps a snake bite or constriction, sees them let out a crushed breath and scream while grasping at their throat, only to freeze forever in that pose, now part of the architecture of the Gorgon's temple. Once again, clothing and items for later. I'll just place the sketch here for now. The fourth fortune seeker, upon facing the true exquisite terror of Medusa, turned and fled through the stone debris, olive trees, and clutter in the lower left foreground. There they were slammed, body broken, as Medusa transmogrified them, even with their leaf-tipped spear still clutched in hand. I've positioned Perseus at a higher angled approach vector, encroaching swift but cautious, blade drawn, and shield's mirror interior reflecting the epic prey. Perseus's intensely focused eyes glimpse Medusa's face and hints of her chaotic snakes as she and they emerge from the temple. However, the cursed creature of creatures appears not to have detected their would-be slayer. I will outfit and equip each adventurer with variations of Greek costume of the ancient era, based on my imagination, learnings, and inspiration from the fantastic source text, Costumes of All Nations, circa 1882, illustrated by Albert Kretschmer, and written by Karl Robarches. Now that 4 of the intended 5 adventurers are sketched, I start tweaking the postures and forms until I am happy. The plan with this human statue kneeling in the bath is to sculpt them wearing a simple helmet, chiton tunic, belt and strapping, while wielding a long spear with a leaf-shaped blade head. Their mouth is shaped to gape at the sky, as one of Medusa's great snakes rears up in front of them, perhaps admiring the details of its past victory. Just smoothing and shaping the figure with my tools to achieve the basic body contours and volume. The clothing and gear will come soon enough. You may notice the addition made to Perseus and Medusa of the white eyes. This was created by rolling tiny balls of white Polymer clay and inserting them into their eye sockets. And here is the 5th courageous hunter of the ultimate Gorgon trophy. Their plan was to climb atop the temple ruins, stalk across the roof, ready to lunge down with a killing blow upon Medusa as she lay resting or oblivious. Little did number 5 know that Medusa had sisters, Sthano and Euryale, who ambushed them high, beating their nasty wings. Disemboweled by the sisters' claws, the foolish adventurer was left slumped on the roof, baking in the sun, to bleed out or be food for later. And yet, as he lay there, suffering, wingless Medusa rose up with the strength of her mighty hair snakes, and laid her magnificent eyes on those of the human warrior, turning him to stone. Perhaps it was an unintended mercy. It is said, the Gorgons, they coiled and uncoiled, and left bare Medusa's ivory neck. And then Perseus drew the sword Herpe, and struck once. Reflected in the mirror, Perseus saw the fallen head, and he seized it by the hair, and wrapped it in the Kibesis goat skin, and put the goat skin in his wallet. Then he towered high in the air, and, looking down, he saw the 2 sister Gorgons wake from their slumber, and saw their sister dead. They seemed to speak to each other, look this way and that, into the bright empty air, for Perseus in the cap of darkness they could not see, but perhaps could smell him. Sthano and Euryale rose on their mighty wings, hunting low and high, and with casts behind their island and in front of it, but Perseus was flying faster than ever he flew before, stooping and rising to hide his scent. Perseus dived into the deep sea, and flew underwater as long as he could hold his breath, and then rose and fled swiftly forward. The Gorgons were puzzled by each double he had made, and, at the place where he dived they lost the scent, and from far away Perseus heard their loud yelps, but soon these faded in the distance. He often looked over his shoulder for danger, as he flew straight towards the far-off blue hill of the giant Atlas, but the sky was empty behind him, and the Gorgons he never saw again. According to Hesiod's text, after Perseus rushed the Gorgons, unapproachable and unspeakable, longing to seize him, as they trod upon the pale adamant, the shield rang sharp and clear with a loud clanging. 2 serpents hung down at their girdles with heads curved forward, their tongues were flickering, and their teeth gnashing with fury, and their eyes glaring fiercely. And upon the awful heads of the Gorgons great fear was quaking. Going by that text, imagine if I had included the twin sisters. I like my composition, as it is now, and as it is becoming. I use my pliers to bend and straighten these bronze paperclips into shaft lengths for spears. After killing Medusa, Perseus shows humility by dedicating the Gorgon's head to Athena, who thereon places it on her shield, known as the Aegis. This adventurer met their doom over here in the corner. A gasp of agony lasting a few seconds, before being frozen in time, a plaything of the Gorgons. I've added a bronze-tipped spear or javelin, will give him a bronze breastplate, a belt, a scabbard for a dagger, and a windswept hairdo, as his hard body is leaning against the masonry. According to the Homeric hymns by Hesiod, on his feet Perseus had winged sandals, and his black-sheathed sword was slung across his shoulders by a crossbelt of bronze. He was flying swift as thought. For this human hunter, I used blunt-edged tools and ball styluses to model the simple bronze helmet, with a shallow plume, a long spear with a leaf-shaped blade tip, a circular bronze shield, and breastplate, plus a long cloak. The head of a dreadful monster, the Gorgon, covered the broad of his back, and a bag of silver, a marvel to see, contained it, and from the bag bright tassels of gold hung down. Here you can see me sculpting a simple breastplate. As my second YouTube video, I will improve my lighting and close-ups. This is a basic house bulb. Forgive me. Upon the head of the hero lay the dread cap of Hades, which had the awful gloom of night. With the second iteration on this figure, I'm adding the costume and equipment layer by layer. Basic clay forms for the breastplate, belt, lower chiton garment hanging, simple sandals, and a blast of hair. After the victory over Atlas and his change into a mountain, Perseus arrives in Ethiopia, at the time when Andromeda is exposed to be devoured at the hands of a monstrous fish walking on feet and sliding in the water. The distinction for this seeker is a long shawl or cloak that drapes over his arm. This is just a small sheet of clay, curled up and positioned accordingly. Then roll in some textures. In one ancient text, there is a mention of a monstrous fish in context with Andromeda. This could be the clearest, albeit still vague, reference to the Kraken from the fabled Ray Harryhausen stop-motion animated movies. The long sharp black head showed above the stream as he swam, and the water behind him showed like the water in the wake of a ship. This may refer to the would-be Kraken inspiration. Perseus took the goat skin from his wallet and held up Medusa's head with the back of it turned towards him, and he waited till the long black monstrous fish head was lifted from the river's edge, and the forefeet were on the wet ledge of rock. This figure has a snug position next to this amphora. The classic foil ball trick is used to dab the statues to give them a rough, weathered stony texture. Then he held Medusa's head before the eyes of the fish monster, and from the head downward it slowly stiffened. Its head and forefeet and shoulders became of stone before the tail had ceased to lash the water. Then the fish tail stiffened into a long jagged sharp stone, and Perseus, wrapping up Medusa's head in the goat skin, placed it in his wallet. This one-of-a-kind, handcrafted sculpture earned its signature seal of approval. I am quite happy with the result, and many lessons have been learnt. In the text, Metamorphoses, by Ovid, after Perseus kills the fish monster, he hides the Gorgon's head under the sand, covered with seaweed and plants, which are immediately turned into coral. As discussed in the previous episode, Perseus returned to Atlas and turned him to stone. And there is a nice part about the creation of Pegasus and Chiron. For our sculpture, next, Perseus made for Seriphos to deal with Polydectes, his chiefs, and reunite with his wise mother, Danae. For this figure, face down, there was no need to sculpt a face or body front, so I sculpted a puff of scruffy hair, added a long sweeping cloak, and a pair of greaves worn on the shins, leaving bare feet. The transmogrification to stone must have been quite quick because the double-edged Greek zephyr sword remained gripped in their hand. The sun resides in the background, silhouetting the Gorgon's temple, and Perseus, although he remains invisible, thanks for the cap of darkness. Upon landing in Seriphos, Perseus clad himself in beggar's rags. Then he cast dust and wood ashes on his hair, till it looked foul and grey, and placed the goatskin covering and the Gorgon's head in his wallet, and with a beggar's staff in his hand, he limped to the palace of King Polydectes, whom had imprisoned Perseus's mother, Danae. "What news, thou beggar man?" said the king. "Such news as was to be looked for," whined Perseus. Behold, I am he who brought no present to the king's feast 7 long years ago, and now I come back, tired and hungry, to ask his grace. Some final touch-ups and details, using the blunt edge tool and small ball styluses to make the facial contours and features more realistic, while retaining the magical petrification appearance and texture. This was only my second trial video, with poor lighting and camera shots. These will improve. I have learnt a lot. By the splendor of Zeus. It is none but the beggar brat, who bragged that he would fetch me such a treasure as lies in no king's chamber. The beggar brat is now a beggar man, how time and travel have tamed him. Cried Polydectes. The king looked to his servants. One of you run and fetch his mother, Danae, who is grinding at the mill, that she may welcome her son. Perseus swung his wallet round in front of him, he took off the covering of goat skin, and he held Medusa's head on high, by the hair, facing the king and the chiefs. In one moment they were all grey stones, all along the hall, and the chairs whereon they sat crashed under the weight of them, and they rolled on the hard clay floor. I rolled one long clay sausage and chopped it into random lengths, before adding these in a wild sprawling way to the scene's architecture. As you can see, I pressed these sausages onto the columns, steps, and stones, and over the collapsed architecture. Then I used my blunt-edged and stylus tools to jab and cut crawling moss and foliage textures. With a Greek myth like this, there are near-infinite sculpting opportunities, inspirations, and variations. Perseus wrapped the Gorgon's head in the goat skin, and shut it in the wallet carefully, and cried, "Mother, look round, and see thy son and thine own revenge." With the demise of Polydectes, Perseus made the good man, Dictys, the king of Seriphos. Next, Perseus placed the winged Talaria shoes in the temple of Hermes, along with the adamantine sword of sharpness called Herpe. He also placed the Gorgon's severed head, covered by the crucial goatskin cover. As for the polished shield of Athena, Perseus laid this on the altar in the temple of Athena. Then he bade all who served in the temples come forth, both young and old, and he locked the doors, and he and Dictys watched all night with the armed Cretans, the crew of his ship, that none might enter. Next day, Perseus alone went into the temple of Athena. It was as it had been, but the Gorgon's head and the polished shield were gone, and the winged shoe and the sword Herpe had vanished from the temple of Hermes. Unfortunately, as I was sculpting the Talaria winged sandals on Perseus's feet, and the knee-high sandal strapping, the camera power ran out. However, you can see the little wings attached to the heels of the sandals, which were created by cutting 4 tiny triangles from a sheet of clay, then slicing feather patterns into these triangles, before attaching 2 to the rear heel of each sandal, and blending them in with my tools. Close-ups are available in the slideshow. What a fantastic sculpting journey! Although I have a vision for the piece if painted, there is no intention to paint it. I will insert it in the 24 by 24 cm white shadow frame, and set it up for viewing. And I love the result! Mythical! And that's a wrap on the sculpture. Now, I present to you, dear viewers, a brief slideshow featuring photos of the finished piece. I'll be silent so you can enjoy the visuals. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video and want to support the channel, please hit the like button, post a comment, and click subscribe. To see more from the channel, check out my other videos and hit the notification bell for future releases. Visit my social media for insights into the creation process. You can view the episode content notes and learn more about the channel in the video description. If you want to support the channel, please visit my Buy Me a Coffee, Patreon, or YouTube memberships as they become available. Thank you.